Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the brand new studio here in the heart of Silesia, Katowice. Of course, the major just around the corner. 16 teams have all come together here for their chance to be one of the 8 counted as competitors when they enter into the Lanxess Arena. Thanks for joining us, guys. My name's Mitch Leslie. I'm going to be your host for the rest of these 4 days, giving you some insights on stage, catching up with some players for some interviews and all that kind of stuff. And there's no need to drag it all out. We've had a bit of a pre-show already, and we'll be catching up again with the analysts, but we're going to waste no time in getting these teams up on the stage to kick things off for the first game. So, hailing from the CIS region, qualifying for this qualifier through attendance at MLG Columbus, it's FlipSid Tactics. So I'm here with Markov, of course, from FlipSid. Now, you guys have been reasonably busy. You played the Star Ladder I-League Invitational fairly recently as well, which was a tough tournament for you guys. Of course, you went up against Godsend and Na'Vi. It wasn't an easy one. You also have a team change as well, with Bondik coming out of the lineup. Can you talk us through what now changes for FlipSid Tactics without Bondik and with, of course, Waylander stepping in?
Actually, nothing changed. In general, we just start to play with Waylander like we did with Bondik. So basically, we start just with a fresh mind, with fresh tactics, something like that.
So on that note as well, you guys definitely eyeing off a spot at Lanxess Arena here through this qualifier. There's quite a few teams here as well, some that you probably haven't even played before. I mean, what's the mindset going into this? Are we looking at specific practice, or you're talking about a clean start? Are you guys really just looking to try and show off your own style here?
Of course, we're always playing like our own game. Maybe some end-strats if we know the game style of the enemy team. But basically, we're here to win, and no matter what team we will face, we'll play our game.
It's good to hear. Good luck to you, Markov, and to the rest of you guys as well. FlipSid Tactics, ladies and gentlemen, have a seat and get ready for this match. Well, we wouldn't be kicking off the first game, of course, without an opponent for our friends from the CIS. Reigning from Australia, qualifying here through the Asia Minor qualifier, it is the one, the only, the LA Renegades. So here we are, of course. I'm with Nicholas PK Wise, obviously recently coming on as coach for Renegades. Thanks for taking the time to chat to me, dude. You guys have been traveling a lot. You're far from home already. I ran into these guys in Krefeld last weekend and Sponge was passed out on a couch asleep. Obviously, the travel schedule is taking its toll here for you guys, and obviously, you know, some tough results in the past. How have you guys managed to shake that off now after another travel to get here to Katowice?
I think for us, over the past year, we've become accustomed to the travel. I think at the moment, we're all working towards a common goal, and I guess we've all bought into that goal, and at the moment, we've all made sacrifices to be here. We're really excited at the prospect of playing a team that we really respect as individuals and as a team for what they've accomplished, and really just looking forward to the opportunity to compete against the world's best and hopefully show what we're capable of.
Well, easy enough to get plenty of words out of another Aussie. I like that. But last time you guys played against FlipSid was Katowice 2015, and you drubbed them. It was 16-2, I think. Just how much, though, about you guys has changed since then? Since then, you were Vox Eminor.
A lot has changed, to be honest. Not just in the actual starting 5 with the roster, also myself as a coach, but also the way that we approach the game, our mentality, and I guess our goals as a team. Back then, we were Vox Eminor from Australia, doing our best to, I guess, make ourselves known on the world stage, and now we've been given that opportunity over the last year as Renegades. So we're completely different, but at the end of the day, we still want to win.
Well, that's exactly what your fans, I'm sure, want to hear. Hey, thanks for joining us. Good luck with you guys as well, lads. Enjoy. And there you have it. Have a seat, boys. Get ready to play this one out, and that will do it from me here on the stage. Alex, I can hear the guys definitely clearly saying, especially PK, it's a very different team, a very different situation, mate. But why don't you take us in and put this match under the microscope a bit more?
We'll do our very best. Thank you, Mitch. You're looking fresh, by the way, down there. I can see you. I've worked out my angles. I think it's this way. Yeah, that's where I'm going to be facing when we do that. But thanks very much, Mitch, and it's good to hear from both Markelov and PK. It does seem like Renegades have kind of still got that mindset of a rejuvenated team. They've had an opportunity to play in North America, live in North America, and I just want to start with the question of how much has that actually developed them as a team? I mean, they've had the opportunity to compete in North America. Everyone suggested that was it. You know, that was their crux. Their weakness was that they didn't have common good opponents to play against in Australia.
Hasn't that been a thing for NA teams as well for the past 15 years, at least through my knowledge? If you ask me, I mean, I don't think they've really progressed all too much, to be honest. I mean, they had their peak last summer at one of the G-Infinities, and they surprised teams. I mean, I think it's obvious these guys have individual skill. The big issue is that also they have their fundamentals. Like they're pretty good with the strategies. They're good at timing things, and they're good at executing. But their big hitters just disappear way too often, and you can't really have that. You need to have JKS, Yam, and Azar, really. Those three need to be playing well enough simultaneously, but it doesn't happen all too often, really. So I think that's the big issue for them.
Yeah, no, it really is that, and well, JKS, one of the reasons why they had that highlight during the summer last year was because he had an absolutely massive G-Infinity tournament, and we haven't seen, obviously, you can expect that kind of a tournament out of everyone every time, but you know, to get through this qualifier, I actually think they would have to have JKS in that type of form unless the two other big hitters come through.
I mean, we know that they're all capable players. It's just a question of it happening at the same time. And that moves to quite a parallel with FlipSid. These guys always seem to, and this is your words, I'm using your words against you here, always seem to make it to the major. Just no matter what, it doesn't matter what state they are in, they make it to the major. And I'm wondering if we can find the characteristics that makes that happen.
They are like the big fish in a small pond kind of a team, right? I mean, when they're playing against this level of teams, they do just fine, but when it comes to majors, I mean, they've mostly gone out with single digits on 2 maps, basically. Last summer on MLG, I think they won over 30 rounds. Still did not make it through the group stages because they played 2 overtime games. But they are a very structure-heavy team, have a lot of set strategy. Obviously, Blade being the game leader there, he likes to go through a lot, like a system of his own. There's capable individuals there as well. You have Waylander now. I think he's going to be the one that's sort of coming in with more explosiveness into this team compared to Bondik, who was more like the reliable kind of a riser type of player.
Consistency in the team, and I guess that's the scary part really for FlipSid, the fact that they've lost Bondik, and he was the guy that could fall back on, knowing that, well, Bondik's going to have an okay game. That might be enough to carry us through. With the Waylander, you could have him just completely demolish your opponent, or you could have him kind of falter away by the wayside, and that's not really going to cut it here in this kind of scenario. Luckily for them, it's not just 2 games, and then you're potentially out. They do have games to come back into it and actually stabilize, but I also think that this format doesn't necessarily, help FlipSid, because you don't have necessarily known opponents like you would in the previous qualifiers, where you had a group, you knew your teams, and that was it.
Right.
Here you kind of have to, prepare for potentially everyone.
That's something that we didn't address actually initially with that format. It's true, because of that random, element. It can be difficult to anti-strat them. I do just want to quickly ask if you guys subscribe to the Waylander hype. I didn't sound like you did, Halvor, so I'll start with you, Natu. I mean, Waylander, I remember way back in the Katowice qualifiers, like almost 2 years ago,
versus Titan,
when they was playing with Hooch and everyone was like, who is this guy? Initially, they were like, he's actually Finnish because of the flag on HLTV, and then we're like, actually, no, this dude is nuts. Do you subscribe to this belief that Waylander, when he disappeared from Editor 2 service, everyone was like, this is a loss to the scene and stuff like that? You believe it?
I think obviously he's talented. I mean, just hasn't, when you think about he hasn't really played that much in high-level Counter-Strike, has he? So, I mean, also, like you said, he had the military service he had to do in Finland if he wants to maintain his passport. In his passport, you have to do it. So he was away for 6 months. So, I mean, I would give him a little bit more time, see how this time with FlipSid is going to work out. But obviously, he's been able to put out the numbers. He's been able to play against big teams as well. But consistency, once again, is going to be that big thing. Okay. And that only comes through experience. Once you play against them consistently is where you can build consistency in your play.
And consistency can definitely be applied to their opponents. Renegades, will have a look at their roster and remind ourselves of those names that we will most definitely be shouting and screaming about in this best of 1. One of the names we haven't mentioned yet was Sponge, a player who has been under fire recently, but you'll see the whole roster there. And I do want to just quickly touch on not only Sponge, but also Ustilo, both the 2 names that were kind of unaddressed. Ustilo, the newest addition to this roster. What have we seen really since he turned up? People were rather excited about this switch.
Yeah, probably the best performer from his ultimate immunity. Definitely should be able to create some sort of a spark and a boost to the Renegades team, replacing Havoc. And just on paper, I think that's a pretty significant upgrade, at least in terms of how much efficiency you can have with the opping, because you still can definitely pull that out. And it also allows them to have, in my opinion, a better double op setup if they'd like to go that route as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's so much about Ustilo. Like, it's still about the big Azar and Yam. But like, obviously, Havoc was struggling a lot. I mean, he wasn't having a time of his life. You're gonna have a lot more consistency from Ustilo, for sure. So that should be an upgrade in theory. But so far, I mean, team-wise and score-wise, I mean, I don't think they've really done all too much to say that they're definitely better than they were with Havoc.
Yeah, no, they're still been very up and down. I mean, we saw at E-League just well, a couple of weeks ago, you know, taking Luminosity to overtime and then proceed to get 16-0'd on the next map.
Seems to be a thing for Renegades.
So it just seems like they run out of resources. Like, you know, they put everything into that first map, and it's like you get so close,
slips away,
and they're like, oh no, and then the emotions kick in, and they took a dive, really, truly.
Well, it has to be said, but their body language is probably the most depressing you'll see from any team, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure if that's something that we see out from the surface, or if that's actually a thing in their team where they start losing and everyone's just demoralized and not communicating properly.
Well, we know the power of communication in this game. It's insane,
yeah.
as well as confidence. It seems like communication and confidence are going to be the two C's you have to remember when we're on this analyst desk, because we'll come back to G2 when they do start playing. But the veto is up on your screens, and we're going to start working our way through that. We now no longer have the randomizer, so that's a huge part of this new system, meaning that these maps do get banned down to 1, and it removes that random element of the veto. I'm sure you guys have got smiles on your face with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive thing, to be honest with you. I mean, you always want to narrow down all the random elements you can have, especially in best of ones now. So definitely an upgrade. But when it comes to this veto, I think the cool thing about this matchup is the fact that these teams share a lot of maps they like to play. Maps like Cobblestone, Train, and Mirage are 3 big ones for these teams. And we were actually talking with Spongy yesterday, and he said he did not want to face FlipSid on Overpass. So. That's that was kind of an obvious ban there.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a respect ban coming in from FlipSid, removing Cobblestone this early. It's well, it has been in the past a pretty decent map for them. It's probably it's one of their top 2 most played maps.
But it's also the fact that neither of these teams really play Dust 2, so they don't have to go for the Dust 2 ban right away. They can ban something else, so they try to bait.
They take their second option, though, which is Cash.
Yeah, they try to bait Renegades to take off Dust 2 so they can dictate it, but so far Dust 2 is still in the pool. I'm assuming it's going to be the last veto from Renegades, unless they're going to be gambling big time.
Okay, they're actually going to leave it up to FlipSid, so Mirage or
well,
or Dust 2?
Still probably not going to be played, so it's not going to matter.
I would assume this is going to be a Dust 2 ban.
Yeah, it's going to be
so it's going to be Mirage.
And I mean, it seems to be the trend in best of 1 formats. It's either Cash, Mirage. We're rarely going to see your Overpass and Cobbles. And I tried to start this discussion in Malmo. People didn't quite couldn't quite explain it to me. But it does seem like these maps, these Cash and Mirage, they're just comfort picks for a lot of teams. They seem to just be very comfortable on those.
It's a fact where they feel like the maps where teams feel they can get a lot of rounds on both sides.
Right.
I used to say always steer away from Inferno in a best of 1, because there's a lot of cases where you see T sides getting totally shut down. Yeah. Obviously, Inferno not in the pool anymore, so that switches that game a little bit.
And I can't wait to start talking about Nuke as well. When that does come in, I mean, are we going to see Nuke? I would like to cross my fingers and toes.
No, I don't think so. It's too early days still, and especially for the big dogs, they don't want to gamble. They want to steer away from any uncertainty, and there's not a lot to go off of when it comes to Nuke right now.
I think, doesn't Optic play Nuke? Or
they played at the NA minor
Yeah.
Against Tempo, now Immortals. So I'm not really sure what happened there. Maybe it was like, it just happened, and both teams still owed it.
Yeah, it could be a nice pocket pick, but again, it's a pretty easy job with bending down from 7 to 1 map for the other team to just remove it if they're not comfortable on it.
I mean, it's a question of, what if 2 teams meet that have been putting that time, that work in, and both leave it up to each other? Suddenly we end up on Nuke, and suddenly you have that real taste of what this map has to offer. I mean, I was quickly flicking through to see how often it has been played, and so something like 16 games of Nuke across all of Counter-Strike in 2016. So it really has not been played at all. And we are going into the knife round on Mirage, which means it is almost time for this game to get underway, folks. So I do want to poke you and probe you for some predictions. It is a best of 1 between Renegades and FlipSid. Do we doubt the Australians? I feel like that's where this desk is leaning.
Oh, I think it's just too risky to doubt FlipSid. They've shown so far up till this point that they don't fail in qualifiers, so I'm not going to start doubting them now.
Exactly. That's the big thing, is that in this kind of this tier of competition, I feel like they are going to be a favorite against most of these teams, and Renegades included. So coming down to a map like Mirage, I think it's obvious it's a map both teams like. Renegades, this was the map where they first really came known to be good at, but It's been a mainstay for FlipSid for a long time. And yeah, basically, this is just gonna be FlipSid. Has to be FlipSid.
All right, so there is doubt already for the Renegades. The LA Renegades are going to be going up against it. It seems like the desk is doubting them. Are you at home as well? Do be sure to keep throwing all of your questions and your predictions using that hashtag ESL1. It's about to go down though, folks. Let's get into our first game. It's a debut, and not only is it a new studio, but it's also a stacked qualifier. Let's start with FlipSid Renegades.
Thanks, guys, and a good little breakdown there of the whole tournament. You know, the format actually got explained there, so hopefully we're all going to keep up to that. But yeah, good game to start with here, I think, between these two, and what a good map to see it on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Renegades going up against FlipSid, two teams which, for FlipSid at least, they've been able to make it into the major, but really never still finding their greatness, I guess you could say, in Counter-Strike, despite numerous attempts to locate it.
Yeah, it always seems like they peaked during the qualifiers. It's when you see the best out of them, which is great, but then you get your hopes up for the major, and it's just like, well, and they're kind of gone out in groups. You know what I mean? Like, they just get dropped. So, again, you know, both teams have a lot to prove here, bearing in mind, you know, Renegades had that real up and down performance in E-League. That was a little heartbreaking to watch when you saw that really close game when the first, I think it was their first matchup actually against Luminosity, then the 16-0 happened, and you're just like, oh. It's a tough one to watch. They certainly are definitely heartbreakers in that sense, and FlipSid certainly can do a bit of it themselves, but, so the desk is backing FlipSid here, Blue. Where are you going to sit on this one?
I personally am going to agree with them and say FlipSid, but I don't think that this is like a clear-cut victory for FlipSid. There's definitely still a chance for Renegades, especially since they're starting on CT side. When they played this, I think it was versus Liquid last week or a couple weeks ago, back at E-League Group A. They came very close to taking it in the first half, and they just dominated things on the CT side. However, when they got on the T side is where they really dropped the bomb, and that's what they fear they're going to have to be careful of when they go to the second half here on this map.
Yeah, there's a lot to be seen about Renegades and a lot to be said about their consistency, I guess. Not only in their results, but just their in-game performance as well. So a lot to keep your eyes on with these guys. We are just waiting for them to kick this one off. But even turning the attention towards the other side, FlipSid on this map have always been quite a curious one to watch because, you know, a lot of people hail them as like the mini Navis, right? The ones that have that kind of similar style, but not quite maybe the firepower that falls into the same place that Na'Vi have, of course, because, you know, maybe Na'Vi are, you know, top 3 in the world, arguably, you know what I mean? Like, that's still a factor. But you take them on this map, actually they've got some incredible prowess, and it comes down to some curious players as well. You know, when Waylander's playing well, or World Edit plays well, excuse me, it's kind of incredible to watch. Everyone gets a little surprised, because this is where he actually finally finds a bit more consistency. He starts playing better and better. And the last time that really stood out to me was actually when they're playing SK, I think, in the Pro League. And it was just the way Blade played was something that I hadn't seen at all from his career, but he went absolutely ham. Locked down the A site, and against any Danish team at the time, that's pretty impressive on Mirage. So, again, there's a lot of players who can find form on this one for FlipSid. So, I think I'm there with you on this. I think it's going to be FlipSid picking it up, but score-wise, I hope Renegades are able to keep up to a nice close matchup here.
The big question for me is going to be which World Edit does show up to this matchup here, because if we look at like their last LAN, which was the Starlight or I-League Invitational, World Edit was basically like the only major force that allowed them to make any sort of progress at that LAN. He was present in almost every single map, but the problem was there was also maps where FlipSid, as a general team, weren't making any progress at all, and they were just getting absolutely shut down, and then we just didn't see much of World Edit at all. So I feel like a key thing here for FlipSid is going to be to make sure they start off well, get the mobility rolling right from the beginning. And now, guys, we are going to be getting into that first match. It's going to be here on Mirage, the first one. Remember, the new format, 3 wins and you're in, 3 losses and you're out. Let's see who's going to get their first win and their first loss here in our first matchup.
FlipSid starting on the T side. Renegades did win the knife, as you saw, so picking to stay on CT, but nice little interesting buy up here. 2 utility players for the Ts, and Waylander going for the Julies as well, so got to see how they come through. But again, bombs over by B-Apps, but look at the CT players actually going for some probing work. JKS and Sponge both looking for a little bit of action and spotting out Blade.
JKS is going to be your big point man too for a lot of this team, for a lot of this tournament. So we're going to want to be a little bit careful with poking him out so early on, not being met with too much else in response to that. However, as we can see, though, JKS is still peeking for it. He does spot a little bit of action going on in the back alleys there, but unfortunately won't really be able to react to that too much as of yet until I actually see them pushing through the apartments.
And this is the one thing I do remember about FlipSid is their mid-takes were incredibly impressive. It's the way they took control, denied information, and then worked their way through towards A, which it looks like we might be seeing here, but Sponge going to get sent back pretty quickly, down to 8 HP. That kind of sucks for him, because he literally just took a peek, but Shara just walking up short, finds one. Sponge so low, should have been an easy pick up there, but Sponge at least makes a little bit of value out of his life there, but Blade still splitting towards A, and look at this. They cause the rotate towards B, they still hit A, and it looks like this one is pretty much wrapped up unless Yamanaza can find something, and I think there's a couple of technical issues coming through, so hopefully for Renegades they can clear their heads after this one, because it looks a little bit tough to break back into.
But it does look like FlipSid have full control of this one. And remember, guys, there was a tweet that went out this morning clarifying the new change of the rules for technical pauses. The members of Renegades will no longer be allowed to talk to each other, and FlipSid won't be able to do it either. However, this round itself does not appear to be over just yet.
It's got a little bit interesting. Az has suddenly found a little bit of a spark here. It doesn't have a kit, though, so has to be a little bit faster than maybe you'd like. Waylander's waiting with the Julies. Backs away, here's the steps. He knows this is just a little bit of a time gamble now, as it is running low on time, and I think this one is pretty much secured. Waylander can just play with the bomb. There you go. The Julies do pay off. He actually got 2 kills with that as well. That's almost
rolling right
impressive.
in.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as you said, you can see that no one is talking. They're not allowed to talk at this point. Yeah, sponge. Shush. Yeah, we league now, boys. We league.
Keep your hands off the keyboards.
But yeah, this was a discussion. I think it was actually Lurpis who not brought it up initially, but it was something he highlighted that some of these technical pauses may not always be as technical as they seem. But this, I think, was Azza not having sound, so kind of needed to, you know, fix that ideally.
Definitely, and I think it's been like a question that's sort of been raised for a long time, as it's always been like, all right, well, are they actually having
how many
a
TeamSpeak
issue?
issues?
yeah, that's the go-to.
Yeah, poor old TeamSpeak gets a rough time, right? It's just like it's so fine normally, it's perfectly fine, but no. So you can't call out the mouse when you're sponsored by them, right? So it's like, what can we blame that's not sponsored? But no, it does seem as though hopefully that'll be fixed up pretty soon. I'm being told by production it's a pretty swift one. Sponge looking cheerful as ever. Happy man.
Definitely.
He did get naded down pretty low, to be fair. That's how I feel.
He got denied, essentially.
Literally was just a slap back.
You want to check mid? Oh, no. It's not something we're going to let you do there. Get right back into the V site.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they throw that fake 2, it's like complete control taken by FlipSid. So talked about them needing to get the early start to see some of the big players come out to play the like world at it, and that's exactly what they're going to get here off the first round.
And even if you break down how FlipSid came into that pistol, I really enjoy how they play it. It's kind of this all-encompassing style where they give up a little bit of room, but they still retain enough. So, for example, I think it was Waylander literally sat back by T, just making sure no one could push through Palace or Ramp. If they wanted to rotate back towards A, they had the 2 players at the top of mid, just seeing if there's a push, and then they'll just play around with what they've been given, find a pick, and, well, normally they work in towards A in that instance, which they did, but by that point they'd killed so many, it was just like, well, we're pretty much set here. But again, I think FlipSid, this is the map that I've always been impressed with them on, and Overpass, to be fair. Those 2, it's just like, okay, they mean business here, but you know, you can't ban out every single favorite, and of course Renegades fancy themselves on something. They've got to be relatively confident. They've got a relatively similar map pool as well.
Yeah, and like I said before, hopefully with them getting the CT side, that's going to give them a little bit more of a boost there. The problem though is that now they've lost that first round. So obviously with this being a map on Mirage, a map that we always weigh much more onto the CT side, they're going to need to get going as soon as they get the guns in their hands. Similarly on round number 4 there, as soon as they can stack that up, they can just start winning rounds, because already letting FlipSid start off with 3, unless we see Renegades winning an upset here on round number 2, then that's going to already put FlipSid into a very good position to try and stack up some more of those rounds.
Yeah, and as I said, this is where FlipSid kind of go ham. This is their playground. It's in qualifiers. They become like the kings of it, and I'm not gonna say I don't expect it, but it's always just like, again, you know, you can see them having this like really bad performance for a little while, like, what's happened to FlipSid? Where's Markov? We always get excited. We see him go near an AWP and it goes badly. So every time. And then suddenly in qualifiers, we're like, all right, it's time to get excited for FlipSid. But I think we are almost ready to go. I'm not too sure what's going on here. Hopefully we can get a little update. So yeah, it should be fine. You can see the guys just getting ready now. They're all set up. Admin's going like, all right, guys, you good?
It's that sticker motivation that drives those teams forward.
That's it. Oh, man.
It's like, all right, got the payday. Now we're
Chunk
good.
of change. Yeah, now we can just chill. It's not around the major. You know, there's not that much money, right? And no, it's a big difference to these guys.
That is a question for me that I've sort of wondered myself for a while. Is like what kind of drive do FlipSid have? Like, because obviously we'll see. I imagine we'll see it here in this matchup where like they bring a whole sort of new game. Back at Starlighter, not super impressive and whatnot from them a couple weeks ago, but ramping up to the qualifiers themselves, they always seem to have this huge increase of performance. But then once they go to the major, nothing really very impressive to get themselves out of the group stage and whatnot. It almost seems like they're just content to make it to the major and that's it. And that's sort of a question that I myself have been asking for a couple weeks now. Are we going to see that again from these guys heading into Cologne now? Yeah,
it's a more than valid question. It was weird, as you said, it was a couple of performances from FlipSid you always kind of just brush aside. Maybe a couple of players show up, whether it's kind of your world edit having a good performance, having a down performance, you kind of just go, okay, this is very much going through the motions. But even at the very end of Pro League, they were putting up results. I think it was against even Na'Vi. They started to pick up some incredibly impressive results. So these guys certainly can compete, and I think we were going to be seeing this throughout the games, throughout the qualifier. But again, for me, it's looking at which players step up. Who's going to find their consistency here? Will World Edit have one of those big tournaments where he can really start showing that, okay, I am a world-class AWPer, and he has shown it before. He's not been afraid to challenge out the likes of Guardian, even against Na'Vi. And the online stuff, of course, it's online, it's very different, but still, he shows that he can certainly keep himself up there. But again, Renegades, who's going to step up for you?
I mean, like, Sponge is always someone who, not necessarily, like, I'm not looking to step up as a big leader, but I just want to see him be more a part of the core fragging power of this team.
Yep.
Obviously, with him taking on the leadership roles and whatnot, we don't normally expect that, but it's to a certain degree with him where I feel like he's almost, like, too inefficient with his ability to frag out. When you look at the stats, he oftentimes is just so far below the rest of his team, and it's a bit disappointing when you think if he wants to provide that leadership, maybe it would be better if they tried to find another fragger from Australia and then put him into the coach role or whatnot, but now they also have a coach doing that, so what sort of position does that leave Sponge into?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this kind of got discussed a little while ago. Sponge has had, I know personally that he's had a load of offers, I can imagine, to go into coaching roles if, let's say Renegades didn't go so well. I know loads of people would love to pick him up as a coach, but he says he wants to play. So it's like, you kind of see from his perspective, sure, I want to be a player here, but then you've got to keep in mind what's best for the team as well sometimes. But still, I'm hoping this time around we get to see the good Sponge come out, right? The guy that plays beautifully, has incredible passion to it as well. It's where's this team that we're looking at. So, and for Yastillo as well, it's a massive game for him. Havoc wasn't exactly a slouch. He had some pretty poor performance towards the end of his career. Definitely didn't retain up there in the higher echelons, but still, he's got to start finding that role as well.
I feel like that's the story for Renegades in general. It's just trying to find their own sort of validation and their own sort of glory here in Counter-Strike. They've never really been able to obtain it.
Yep.
Like they wanted to prove themselves as an Australian team back when they were in Vox Eminor, get their name out there and whatnot, and then when they took on the role of Renegades, they were like, all right, we want to get over here to North America, and we want to show that we're better than these North American teams. But they get there, and again, they don't really show that all that much. They're able to contest against a lot of the middle to lower tier teams in like the ESL Pro League and whatnot, but they don't end up making it into the top 4. They don't end up crushing a lot of the bigger teams like Cloud9, CLG, and Team Liquid and whatnot, and they're still trying to prove to themselves that they are one of those better like world-style teams. And they always bring, I think one of the analysts was saying earlier when we were in rehearsal today, like, bringing a lot of talk, but sometimes not just bringing the game that is needed to back that up.
It's just Australians, I think. It's like Mitch, all hot air. That's it. No, you got to give Mitch a little bit of ribbing. He's a little new to this, People were giving him apparently grief about shaking mic, and I was like, oh bless him, he's nervous.
He's got the sneakers on.
Yeah, exactly. He's
got the
Nikes.
Chilling.
He's chilling. Damn, Daniel. All right, it looks like the game is unpaused, so before my memes start creeping onto the stream, we can get back into this one. And, we're going to see the scout for Yam, as with a bit of armor. Get into game so we can see it, please. Please? Game.
This is a cinematic viewpoint.
Fade into the game,
There we go. Didn't even go to the same player either. Bit disappointed.
We're let down. But coming into this, let's see again what we're going on here. It looks like Renegade's going for a massive point of contention in mid, at least right now, keeping those pistols as relevant as I guess you can. You can't exactly make the same old challenges. And 2 rifles going out, Galil with Blade, UMP wadded it, and then the SMG. So already FlipSid looking to make a bit of bank out of this one, and Markelov being left to his own devices.
There is a very large focus for the Renegades on defending mid right now. 3 players positioned to try and watch out for that, which means this A site's going to be an easy take for these guys to be able to grab, and already knocking out some of the kills. Blade finding Yastillo, a few more taking some damage as well, as Sponge has sort of been backed out of there. Markelov finding another pickup. Yeah, not really able to impact as well as he was imagining there with that scalp, and he's going to be taken down by Shara.
Really nice read out of FlipSid into that, just keeping them at arm's length. Completely clean round, and a team ace as well. Every single player picking up one of the opposition. No one falling either, so good money being built throughout this. I can imagine maybe they'd ideally want it towards like World Edit maybe, so you can get looking at that AWP as quick as possible, but still perfectly fine to come into this round and have very little to come up against. Again, though, those second rounds, sure, you weirdly do see pistols doing disgustingly well in this game, but coming back to the basics, they shouldn't do that well, so you might as well go for gambles like stacking or trying to find, crossfires that could pay off. And again, it looks like we're going to see it here. 4 players staring towards ramp, just trying to make a play off it, and Sponge going to be hearing maybe some steps towards B, but Waylander and Blade might be aware of this now.
As Waylander lurks his way out there. Not a little spot anything from the Renegades just as of yet, as they do safely retreat back into the A bomb site. But now FlipSid groups up, still not decided themselves as to where they want to take this. They're going to have to be careful not to run into one of those big stacks from the members of the Renegades. But right now, seem to be doing a pretty good job of dodging it. You should know that the Renegades are very mobile. Like normally when a team does one of these wrist stacks, they go to a site and they just stay there for the entire round. Look at how much Renegades is moving around. And despite this, they are still going to lose the initial battle, but they dink Shard on a 14 HP.
Yeah, they've kind of fallen back to default here, FlipSid. This is how they started out that first round, but as you said, a lot of damage was done towards Shara, but still with the armor, with the guns, they should be able to close out cleanly, but Sponge at least will be able to punish one even, being Markelov, and now left all alone. Not sure this can go so well, but he's going to try and do a little bit of something more, but there you have it. Blade in the end will close out. They lose one player, being Markov, but I think he had the map 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's perfectly fine upgrading. They might as well do it anyway, and there's your AWP already. So looking at FlipSid, they've had a very nice start to this, and actually Yam's able to get himself to the AWP as well.
Yeah, essentially like 0 damage done to FlipSid there over the course of those 2 rounds. Normally you expect to see a little bit more, so that's a bit disappointing for Renegades, and now they're already, assuming we see a victory here for FlipSid on this round, they're already going to have to deal with a very strong economy for the Ts, which is not something you want to have to deal with right at the beginning of the game. That's one of the many issues you're going to have to get yourselves over, and for the CTs now you not only have to worry about destroying your enemy's economy, but also maintaining their own, which does tend to be an issue for quite a few teams.
Okay. Still in an interesting spot here. He could do some work just playing down by dark, but here come the flashes to follow up. That's going to deny Sponge getting any info here, and he's not particularly safe either. If Waylander decided to step out, he could maybe do something, but a bit of a delayed push coming out from FlipSid. Good little flashbang over the top there. Still, he's going to find Blade a little bit out on his own, kind of left to his own devices, but Marklov's doing a little bit of split towards B. They've left JKS to deal with that, so that's, again, keeping everything in mind. JKS knows what's coming now. Sponge finds World in it, and we're seeing a good little shutdown coming out from Renegades, finally showing a little bit of bite to that bark of theirs. Shara now the last man standing. Gonna make a good bit of a dash towards it, but Sponge there to greet him at the entrance. And a really well-handled stop from Renegades.
Extremely well played, extremely well,
beautiful.
Yeah, extremely well executed, just like from the beginning to the end of that from Renegades. The flash to support teammates, nobody's getting over-aggressive to hunt down kills. It's all communicated very well, and not a single player ends up going down, so very clean from the Renegades. And now, the question is, will this continue? As FlipSids are obviously, they're going to be buying into this next round here, emptying out their own banks. Shara doesn't look like he, oh, there we go, they dropped the Nick hit. So they are able to get everybody with the rifles they do want, and rolled at it with the op in hand as well, but this is going to be their last chance at it before their economy's broken.
Really impressed with it. I love the fact that JKS didn't even rotate off the site as well. It just locked down B, ensured that no one could make a cheeky play out of it. Again, FlipSid do like that kind of 1-3-1 almost. Like to get that mid control. Not seeing it here. Seeing Blade maybe coming through underpass instead, trying to pinch in towards mid, but already Sponge keeping tabs towards that. But good connection comes out from Yam. Going to find Shara at the top there by the boxes, and Sponge as well flexing down towards underpass. And it looks like Renegades have a really good read into how FlipSid like to play these. But let's see if they can keep control of it.
And now for members of FlipSid,
Hit the shot, Sponge.
starting to fall back away from mid completely now and regrouping themselves outside of the B halls. Not making any more progress outside of the yet, and Waylander starting to investigate things into the A bomb site. Maybe call for a rotate, or call for a re-execute out to mid and then in through the connector there. But so far, not seeing any other action beyond that as the Renegades keep to that much more passive style we saw in the last round too. Nobody peeking out, nobody getting too aggressive to hunt down those frags.
The audacity of Sponge earlier as well, just straight up mid, underpass, and then falls back, as you said, right back to passive. This is a really annoying pace for FlipSid, but Rodden is the one at the spear point of this. He's going to be looking for opportunities, ways to clear a path possibly to be here, allow Blade through. Blade does have his step towards underpass. He needs to be careful. Sponge is still in connector, and he just completely ignores the fact that that could have been a possibility. So now 5v3. Clock running low, 25 seconds. The rest of Renegades can now start to flex back in. You've got Azza pushing up from short, finds Waddet on his own. Markov at least trades that out towards Sponge, but again, times runs just running so low. Azza hops up on towards that little pole there and just keeps tabs towards connector. I'm really impressed with Renegades in this.
And you see a change in the pace there towards the end of the round too. They know that they're running low on time, and you know they're going to have to execute, so may not be paying as much attention to the flanks or the other angles that aren't directly where they're going for their executes. So all of a sudden they kick up the aggression, and they find themselves at least 2 or 3 of those final kills. They were for free. They didn't even have any resistance coming in from FlipSid. So very nicely played. And now with that complete shutdown coming in essentially on those past 2 rounds, FlipSid, they're not going to know what to do with themselves. They're just going to have to go for a full save here.
I'm wondering what Blade would be saying right now. This is the thing, because you know they're quite a tactical team, FlipSid. They're known to be pretty tactical in that essence. Sponge is going to be trying to build bank basically at this point, and they're doing pretty well at it. So
He's seen the foot.
Oh, that sucks. But yeah, you know it's a wasted round, but it's time to discuss almost what you do coming into the gun rounds. Great stuff from Blade to still be able to punish one. That's a costly loss, and Sponge can recover. Not going to happen. But yeah, for me, it's more how do they now recover. FlipSid should have variation. They should have ways to get around this. Let's see what they come up with.
Buys coming back in, it's still going to be fairly normal. And of course, with the full save coming in, very minimal investment on round number 6. This one, they're going to be right back up to a full buy. 4 AKs, the op back on World Edit, and basically full utility for most of the players, or at least enough utility that's needed to go for the usual T-sided execute. Haven't seen any of that as of yet from FlipSid. We haven't seen these fully fledged executes with a full smoke setup or anything as of yet. It's been pretty basic up to this point for FlipSid, so I feel like we're still like barely just digging into the mud as far as what FlipSid can bring to the table here, and that's a bit unfortunate.
Wait,
no, I think
it
missed.
Yeah,
it went a little bit too low, and it bounced off the little edge there below it.
All right, this is a big mid play as well. You can already see Blade and Shara pushing themselves up. That denies Yam, so that's a massive loss in that mid control. There's Shara as well. Finally, some of these shots starting to hit for FlipSid, and they were definitely needing that. Now down to 3, Sponge, Ustilo, and JKS. JKS can solo out on that B side, but Sponge is in trouble. Kind of locked into connector here, but he can still cause a bit of problems for maybe FlipSid at this point.
Waylander still sitting back now, looking for a way into this site. He's playing very passively, waiting for a mistake from the Renegades, somebody to fall back from the connector. Blade looking for a way in, not going to check the right corner though. Sponge is going to find a kill, but Sponge, unfortunately, a little bit over-aggressive there. Peeks back out and World It finds the quick response.
Time to pick your poison here for the T side, and they actually chose to go towards A, and it's paid off perfectly. Waylander breaks in, Ustilo goes down, bombs on the way. They know JKS is going to be on B side. And there's World It finding him too. So well read, well played. The difference, I don't know if there was a massive difference. They just hit their shots mid. It seems that they took it over with more players, having 3 there rather than the maybe 2 that they've been having, for a couple of rounds. So maybe just taking the focus there. And sadly for Sponge, he didn't get to kind of wreak havoc like he did before.
Yeah, it seemed like he was doing a good job of holding off that connector. And I mean, he finds the first kill this time, but there's that over-aggression that I think they're going to be careful of here before as he makes that same mistake. And it's World It that punishes quite a few of those final kills and allows them back. And Shard, though, is the big man that finds the first few on the way and pushing past that smoke, and immediately Renegades are going to look for a counter on this. So look at the aggressive positioning from Yam right now, back over here. If they go for that same peek again, he's not flash for it. Whoever peeks is a dead man. Oh, and he misses it though. That should have been an easy shot. Now Shara just going to spray him right down through the smoke to respond. Nicely played by FlipSid.
You've got to be hitting those, Yam. You had a lovely adaptation, had a great idea to it, but if you can't execute it, it doesn't matter in the end. So you can see FlipSid smoking off deeper towards connector. They can open up the possibility of going towards short if they want to, or at least make them think that. And now let's see how FlipSid play this one out. They boosted one towards window, that being Markov, supported by Shara, up by Laterum. And the bomb's still all the way back by Team Mid. So this is still a long way in the making. 5v4. FlipSid aren't rushing this. They've just kind of hit the brakes here.
So now that they've got a bit of an edge there, it's time to sit back and relax now. Renegades themselves still looking for a way to recover into this, but a lot of them rotating over to the A-bomb site now are closer to watch out for mid presence. They know it's already there from FlipSid, but they themselves have yet to actually make the decision as to where they want to take this, although it's definitely leaning towards a B hit now, with a lot of their players focused on Cat and a few more pushing their way through the back B halls at the moment. Still waiting to see, and there is a player still stacked up on the site. It's going to be JKS, mainly watching for the apartments push. Still nothing to be found as of yet. It's very, very calm on the battlefield with only 30 seconds left.
And it's going to make the rotate so hard. JKS had to do something. They're lining up for him, but just gets picked out by World It. Now Azza can watch the cross, but still, so many players about to take that challenge. A couple of flashes coming in. He turns it pretty well, comes back, and no one faces. Azza's getting away with absolute murder here. He could have done so much more damage. He went back down to 3v3.
Look
but
at
look at the flank. Markelov coming in with some real classic play. Leaving Ustilo in a 1v2. He can do something with this. They are so low, and now he's down to 19, but Blade's only on 29 HP.
Blade, though, as well, does have the advantage of that they didn't really get very good intel as to what was on the site in post-plant, so Blade's basically got a full advantage if he doesn't check his position there. He's still up, trying to check all around, but he doesn't check out behind the arches. Blade's going to finish it off, and now FlipSid. They'll take the lead away in a big way from the Renegades, leading by 2, and also destabilizing the CT economy here.
And impressive stuff. You saw the hold they were building when they kind of hit the brakes a little. They had players up by window, they had one in that ladder room, and even that retake then, if, let's assume, Markelov didn't do that sort of play, would have been incredibly hard as well for Renegades, so brilliant stuff, sending them back down to the pistols. Now, FlipSid, impressive point being, they won the first 3 pistol rounds, first 3 rounds being pistols, kind of following off the back of that, and then they started to struggle, but their little break on their pistol out round actually paid off, but back to that in a minute already, because Sponge just was able to walk through Yam as well. How have they been able to do this on a default A?
They've had much better luck elsewhere on the map, though.
Yeah.
As they did find 3 of their kills, but it is a bit unfortunate that both Sponge and Yam find kills, essentially just walking out to
There's
ramp.
literally nothing special about it. They literally, let's just go ramp. I see your legs first, that's great. No one watching the ramp push. Like, I'd be livid if I was FlipSid. How have we lost 2 rifles in this? But again, you're still reading the gameplay really well here. Actually going to position yourself over towards B, but then again, 3 players pouring in. This should be pretty much smooth sailing now.
And Ustilo, all he's got to hope for is finding the guy that's going to go for the plan of the bomb, and there we go, connects the headshot. He should know World that it's back over here by the bench somewhere, but I think he gives himself up a little bit too aggressively there, and World that it does end the party. However, with that being essentially a full eco from the Renegades, still very impressive that they kill 3 out of 5 of them.
I guess impressive in some ways, depressing in others, depending who you are.
Those first 2, it seemed like it was much more the mistake of FlipSid.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, Renegades literally just walk out T-ramp, no flashes or anything special about it.
There you have it. All right. It is what it is. 6-3 right now. FlipSid are in the lead, and Azza going to go for a bit of an aggression straight up mid. Yam's going to be supporting him as best he can. A bit of a delay nade almost there, just kind of place himself in a better position to take the fight, and he does, and he wins it out. Markelov gets removed, and we're back down to 4. little bit of a flex comes out as well from Sponge towards Blade, and now look at what it pressured, can't hit the shot. And again, a little bit of switching up of the pace here seems to be paying off for both sides.
But now, though, Waylander going to be moving into the site, trying to get the spray down through the box, but he's going to lose the race, and now it's up to Sharat to recover from this in a 1v2. Not entirely impossible. Trying to take the guess as to where he's gone for the plant, but they can't find it. That's some great smoke coverage further back in the site, so Shar is free to move back over here behind the ticket box. He's going to play aggressively, though, and that ultimately will lead to his downfall as JKS waits patiently, grabs him down as soon as he rounds the corner, and there's still plenty of time left for that defuse to come in.
Yeah, both teams really going on a switch up of pacing here as well. You can see them both responding accordingly to each other throughout these rounds. That time it was as a straight up mid. They had the support of Yam. You had a little bit of plays left, right, and center. Quick rotate towards A, locked it out really well. So at the moment, Renegades still keeping this one competitive, but that score's still not looking great. You know, this is one of those maps where you do expect a good CT performance, but again, Renegades haven't been exactly known for being consistent at times on this map.
I mean, just not known for being consistent in general when you look at them as a team, but that, to a certain degree, that can be the same thing for FlipSid. Just definitely, I mean, when we look at it in the course of this game, FlipSid do seem to be a little bit better at things at the moment, but Renegades, they're not just lying down about it. They are finding ways to recover, and it's sort of both teams battling back and forth at their own strategies at the moment.
See what FlipSid bring into this. They are in a bit of a weird situation. Waylander only can get the Tech 9 here, and still needs to be a little cautious. Could easily get overrun, but does have the spot of Sponge not too far away. So these two just going to be playing out towards A. You've got Shara and Markelov working elsewhere, making sure no one can over-rotate, quickly cheat over towards another site. Now, 1 minute on the board. It looks like FlipSid are going to run that clock down pretty darn low at this point.
Still very, very passive at the moment. Shara going to be moving out now. Timing on that was actually almost great, considering Yam was looking back at the time, and now he's going to jump down, spots a player, but again, a little bit late on actually going for the shot. Be able to safely retreat. Now some of them going to be caught out, though, and Shara, it's actually Waylander that finds the first kill, but Azur does respond and take down Shara. Now World at finding another one as they actually go for the execute in this A bomb site. Bomb is not with them at the moment, so Renegades will have a little bit more time to get in position to retake this site, but it is going to be under the full control of the T's. Whoa, I say that, but Yam, with the timing flick, shuts down Waylander. And all of a sudden now, they've evened this back up. He has another opportunity to find a connection, but misses it, still taking the guess as to where he's going to be. And that nade, in theory, should land, but CSGO, and there we go. It actually does hit pretty well. Brings Blade down to just 30 HP.
Okay, so we've suddenly got a little bit of a game on our hands now. Markelov going to be holding the close push, actually takes the fight as well. JKS gets removed. We're down to a 2v1 as it's just Azza left alive, and sadly for him, he's not going to have an easy time being pulled left, right, and center. And it's Markelov to put him out of his misery in the end, but that looked a little bit exciting there. You got a couple of plays. Yam at the forefront, I guess, with that ridiculous shot just coming out, but still just couldn't quite make it any closer. And now their money, well, it's pretty trash, let's be honest here. Only one player on 3K, and everyone else just kind of left on, what, 2.8? They might as well buy a little bit into this.
They're just gonna bring themselves around to the 2K mark, it looks like, so that they can still go for the full buy on the next round.
Yep.
So very minimal buy, but we've already seen them do work with a minimal buy, just, I mean, through outright aggression. We've already seen it from that T-ramp push that happened before, and I think Azza might try to do it again against Markelov, but Markelov is sitting here, and he is absolutely waiting for somebody to push in his direction. It's away for a moment, though, and that may just give Azza what he needs to go for the push.
JKS just playing the bait pretty much, saying, look my way, while Azza just pins it in. There you go. They've at least denied one rifle and recovered that. Azza has armor, but can they keep control anywhere else on this map? That's the only issue now, because Waylander and Sponge are about to clash, and it's Waylander who comes out on top. So now A, open for the taking. Yam's already pulled himself away from it. Shara's going to take the fight, wins it cleanly. The only threat left on this board now pretty much is Azza here. And Shara could be in trouble, actually. He's going to be just chased down. Look at this, like rabid dogs. Renegades want to do some more damage, but not going to find much more, as Blade is there, ready and waiting. And again, FlipSid looking so fluid throughout this map on their T side, never overly committing, never just doing like default A's. It's been, okay, let's get that mid control. Let's try and work a little bit towards B. Let's have a couple of players over towards Palace. It's incredibly hard for, I guess, the CT sides to find any information at this point.
Waylander, who sort of at the beginning of this half was a little bit hit or miss when it came to those entries, because he's just been like the designated player that hides out in the Palace and then looks for a peek outside, was kind of hit or miss at the beginning. But as of the past couple of rounds, he's actually been incredibly on point with finding that first frag and sort of opening up the wayside for the rest of his team to move in. So a very big component. This combined with these guys constantly winning their 1v1s out towards mid and then getting control there, it's not allowing Renegades to hold very good control of essentially anywhere on the map.
And pistols again. Ain't it fun? It's just kind of sitting there, what can we do now? We're doing as much as possible with them, but not quite being able to find any impact. And they know that ESL has been playing A pretty religiously so far. Not going to catch anyone out towards Palace either, just kind of been backed away from. But you can see the caution with FlipSid. They're not rushing this. This is the FlipSid that people become, you know, kind of impressed by, that they don't take these rounds for granted. Sometimes they do get a little caught out, like that ramp push. But again, this pacing, impressive. It's just showing not necessarily respect, but just restraint upon themselves. Going to be taking themselves through towards B. Justillo just has to sit here and wait, pretty much.
Basically hoping that they assume Justillo himself had gone inside of Market and that maybe he can catch Markelov working his way through the murder hole there, trying to grab somebody else, but it's not looking likely in the current form of things, especially considering FlipSid themselves. They're starting to build up a bank, but for most players it's still incredibly small, and it really won't be worth it to hunt down this player when they know at most he's got like a deagle or something if he scavenged it off of one of his teammates' bodies, but he doesn't even have that.
And the utility hasn't even had to be used this round for FlipSid. Keeping hold of all those mollies, those flashes, those smokes just means that they do start looking at that bank a little bit sooner, and maybe they can just kind of look at the rest of the rounds and be like, okay, we can cruise through a little bit of this. Considering, you know, there's not that many rounds left to go in this half, so they can just kind of coast a little bit. So, can Justillo find anything on the way out? He knows well that it's up there. He can hear the ladder steps.
Rolled it, but yeah, not going to be able to pick that up. And Markelov will take him down. That'll be a 9th one for the members of FlipSid. And now they're definitely going to hold a very good lead, regardless of the outcome of these next 2 rounds going into that second half. Another gun round here for the members of Renegades. But they're going to have to impact big time here to try and swing this back.
Yeah, they've got to go all out in this. This wouldn't be this wouldn't be great to end the score on T-side being up at this point. And Justillo's going to try and switch things up here, which I like, is taking a little bit of initiative. But look at Markelov, so ready and waiting. This guy's prepared for what's coming his way, and Justillo not going to go for the pop flash just yet, just going to maybe take the fight. I'm just be wondering here if he goes for anything. But while this happens, again, FlipSid are just waiting throughout the map for any aggression as well. Wildedet and Shara just sitting at the top of mid. All right, well, we'll stay here. Yam taking over, I guess, JKS's role. He'll be sitting over by B. Justillo is actually starting to make progress. He's managed to kind of just dodge past where Markelov was watching. And Markelov doesn't see him either. Justillo's got a really good chance here. He needs to land the shot first, though, and he's going to get the chance and takes the opportunity perfectly. But now, how much can they keep control of this? Because the trades have been pretty deadly from FlipSid so far.
That's the second time now that someone's been caught off guard due to some sort of distraction coming in from apartments, and then they're just rushed from underpass, and they don't even notice it there. They try to come in for the trade, but that quick smoke cut off there inside of the apartments is going to disable anything like that from happening. And now FlipSid are down a man, weren't able to trade it, and they've still got very little map control with only 45 seconds left.
All right, FlipSid, let's see some of that magic then. You're down to 4. How would you play this one out? It looks... Let's see where they're going to go here. Blade already just kind of taking it straight to mid. 3 players there. Waylander just coming round, I think, as well. So it's not going to be the default A. It might be through connector. It might be up short, but we're going to find out soon as well that they're already going to claim Azza. And we're back down to a 4v4, 28 seconds. Let's bear in mind that, you know, they are known as the mini Na'Vi in a way. These guys can play that clock as low as they like, but they need to hit these shots. And Justillo can be a huge problem to this, making some real nuisance play towards FlipSid, leaving them just with 2. Wildedet and Shara left with very limited options. Wildedet gets the tag, not be able to take down the one player who's in towards those apartments. It was Yam, and now Wildedet just gets shut out. Good stuff in the end, and very low on that timer at the end there for FlipSid to do anything with.
And that goes back to that much more sort of methodical takedown there towards the end. Both players get the call out pretty quickly. The things are coming in from arches, and it's 1-2, and the third kill is just playing with that last man left alive from FlipSid. So Renegades bouncing back good. Still showing some signs of life here as we get towards the end of it. It did look like FlipSid were going to take control pretty convincingly here, but still being able to stack up a round or 2. We still could be looking at a close game heading into the second half, but 6-9 is still definitely going to favor in a big way FlipSid when you consider the recent T-sided results from the Renegades.
Shara is so ready for this as well, but he doesn't land the shot. Azza just outdoes him. Okay, suddenly this is a bit of a change-up. Well, it's broken through on B, but they got control of mid, so now they're kind of split up because that bomb is in Palace, so now Justillo is still incredibly vital to this. Waylander's going to hold the rotate. I'm wondering where Blade's going to take this one. Wildedet misses the shot. That allows Azza back into the game a little, but down so low on HP. This has to be a bit of a monstrous effort, and he does some good damage, but not enough to take the kill. But that bomb's still so far off.
Got a big rotate to get itself over to the B bomb site, so I imagine the big goal from Markelov and Wildedet is just to try and hold on to control here. Waylander even finding a kill on the A bomb site, and now there's a bit of insecurity, I would imagine, on the Renegades as to, all right, well, what the heck is happening? Especially considering it's a 2v4 and Sponge is essentially stuck in this site. He could still try to maneuver his way back out, but he spots Wildedet sitting behind the bench there, takes him down through the concrete. And that's going to be another frag going in their direction. Yam also still has very partial control of the A bomb site as well. With that shot, he takes down Waylander. And just like that, we're back into a 2v2. And the members of FlipSid, they're going to try to rotate this over towards A.
But look how late Markelov is to this. He was maybe playing that a little bit of a bait role, trying to do a little bit of something else. But now Blade is all alone at this point, working his way towards A. Sponge sitting towards CT, gets the kill. Yam was holding the cross as well, and it's down to Markelov 1v2.
Markelov now working his way into the site very quickly. 30 seconds left, still a decent amount of time to play with here, but he's still got to figure out exactly where the two remaining members of the Renegades are playing from as well. He doesn't have any utility really to work this with a single Molotov to try and hold this. That flash, he's just going to go right for this frag. Dodges the first shot coming out from Yam, but now the molly from Yam as well. He's got to look for this quickly. He's found it, but then he's going to burn himself alive, and that is going to bring the Renegades back into contention 6-9 as we close out the first half.
So, good showing so far from FlipSid, looking very proficient on the T side. And actually, it was Blade having a big performance so far. Not quite seen the world edit that we maybe were hoping to have a little look at, but there's still another half to go. And Renegades, on the other hand, what are you making them so far?
I mean, this is still like an immensely improved Renegades as far as what I was expecting. So we definitely have to look forward to them going into the second half as well.
So, guys, we'll be back after a very short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to the ESL 1 Cologne qualifiers. We are here midway through the first game of the day, which is Renegades against FlipSid. Now, FlipSid's T side so far, score-wise, has been more than proficient. Now, Renegades, on the other hand, have a little bit of work to do on their T side now.
One thing to note, actually, sort of as we still bounce off of things from the first half, is I talked about this at the beginning about how normally like Sponge is a very like low player on the totem pole when it comes to the scoreline. He's actually leading at the moment, 12 and 11 for him.
Is that a good or a bad thing at this point?
That's what I was going to lead into. It's like, I mean, we've seen this in the past. You think of like sort of towards the end of 2015 when Sean Garrison was still on Cloud 9.
Yeah.
There was a time, I think, like right at the beginning of season 2 or 3 of the ESL Pro League where he was sort of leading for the team as well. And again, that's not necessarily a good thing because then that means like the rest of your team,
where's your
by
fragging
assumption, where's the rest of that fragging power come from? But still, good for him that he sort of is still stepping up to be that proficient player. And it's not the worst scoreline in the world. So I mean, I don't think we have that bad thing mentality coming into play on it as of yet.
Not yet. Considering the pistol round was won by FlipSid, so if you took away maybe 3 rounds there, blah, 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 you could easily kind of equate this through to being a close game. But we'll have to wait and see, because now it's going to be FlipSid's turn on the CT side to just kind of grit and bear what we've got coming our way. And look at this A-stack from FlipSid. It's a perfect greeting, and Wayland already going to kick things off with a bang as his head gets ripped off, and now Markelov joins in, and this is just sick. This is a complete and utter shutdown so far, and sadly Yam is left to watch.
Just an all-in attempt, it would seem, there from the members of the Renegades. Yam finds one frag, but that's it. And it all starts off with that nice one-tap right at the beginning of the round from Waylander. It just shuts them down as soon as they try to work their way in. And that all-in attempt from Renegades just to rush the A-bombs. It does not pay off whatsoever. So FlipSid, they're going to be winning the second pistol, and now can be going.
That's not nice to start with. Whether FlipSid read it correctly or just kind of went in on a gamble, normally you do not stack that many players towards A on the CT side, but maybe just watching a lot of the Renegades work. Again, this isn't exactly an unplayed map for either side, it's a favorite, so both teams probably doing their homework here. On the flip side, you could argue maybe they overthought some of those first things in the first half. A couple of the rotates, a couple of the plays were a little bit extended, but at this point so far keeping themselves in the game. But let's see what's coming out here. Looks like a mid-pinch coming through. Got the players through underpass. Blade could have got caught out, but reads it well, backs away in time, and can reset this fight, hopefully, as now Renegades working their way up connector.
It's a quick shuffle as these members of the Renegades look for very fast map control. Markelov going to take a little bit of a risk, though, out here towards middle, looking for something to try and grab, and he does pick up one frag there onto Yamp. More players looking to punish it with the jumps, as they do have the pistols in hand, but not going to be able to find anything. Good damage done across the board at the members of FlipSid, but now they've got to execute, and they still cannot find anything as of yet. Blade finds a second frag now, takes them down, and Ustilo, he's also brought to 1 HP.
Yeah, this is the problem. When you get stuck, kind of bogged down in that mid area, it's so hard to break through every angle. You're generally at a disadvantage coming into, but Sponge, in a curious spot, he got himself up towards ladder room. He does have the bomb on him. Wilded, I think, is watching that. He is indeed. So that's going to make it even harder. And Shara's on the rotate. He's going to be watched by JKS. JKS is going to have a chance. Finally, to get a little bit of a punish on, as FlipSid try and kind of, I guess, tighten the noose.
Not being able to pick up a rifle, though. There's still plenty of those in the hands of FlipSid. Only going to be able to recover a UMP. They're trying to use now against the members of FlipSid. And they've slowed down their overall pace immensely here, trying to work for some sort of an advantage into the site, especially considering just how low both Ustilo and Sponge are. And there we have it. Waylander dropping another one of them down. The second frag comes out, only left into the hands of Sponge. She's doing good damage again, but that's been the story so far of this entire round. Unfortunately, members of Renegade just not able to finish off anybody from FlipSid.
Yeah, Blade playing a really big role, playing out from jungle, just kind of watching the push through. Does get tagged up again. Sponge is so desperate to get a kill out of this and not going to make it in the end. Yeah, Blade playing really well. I like the way he fell back perfectly in time, not overstaying his welcome into mid, kind of respecting the fact that those pistols can do incredible amounts of damage, as we all do know by now, but still, 6-11 so far. FlipSid getting the second half off to a very good start as well. They did pick up those first 3 rounds on their T side as well, so this is not too surprising, but not what Renegades would have wanted. Their gun rounds were okay, they were pretty even on those, but this is not the beginning you'd want.
So very quickly, the members of the Renegades here on the third round line up a formation inside of Palace. Yet to execute as of yet, as they still creep their way up to make sure nobody from FlipSid decided to get too aggressive. But still a fairly usual setup. A bit light on the site itself, but they can very quickly adjust this. Blade's going to work his way in. He catches the waterfall momentum now as these players pushing their way out. And there we go, already executing 2 of them. Waylander going for the peak. A little bit messy there, trying to pick up some kills, but ultimately still being shut down without losing a single player.
But for Renegades, they invested into a flashbang and they got a bomb plant out of it. That's actually not that bad. That was pretty much that entire play. I think it was JKS sitting back by, I guess, T-Ram, very, very back of it. Flashes over, allows them out in case anyone was holding close, and they get a plant. So really for them, that's fine. It's not the best in the world, but you can't do much when you literally have a Glock and a flash. 1 flash between 5. So not too bad, but now they need to pick up the pace. They can't really drop the ball here. Their buy's pretty good, though, at least coming into this. They've got the AWP towards Yam. But on the other side, you've still got a fair bit of work to do here. Waylander's just sitting there with the Famous, as is Blade, but they've got rounds to play with. They're not the ones stressed at this point.
Moving into it too. Renegades quickly out towards middle here. World at it, positioning himself on the lower portion of mid. He's going to be able to spot Ustilo. Has a little tiny crevasse to try and see through there. And he's able to spot Ustilo with it here. As they're pushing himself up, he doesn't even realize as you actually see this player. Same thing for Blade. Neither of them have seen each other, and they just walk right past it. Blade, though, catches as the smoke starts to fade, and now he's going to take down Azur.
I'm pretty sure Azur actually jumped on his head at one point.
I think he did, yeah.
That's ridiculous. Okay, that's just frustrating. Now Sponge tries to make a run for it, gets caught in the heels, and it's down to JKS and Yam to find something, but Shara extending over through B removes that threat. And I love that aggression from World Edit and the kind of cocksure play almost, just going, all right, I'll play down the bottom of mid there. I'll trust in you, Blade, to, you know, secure underpass. And yeah, it kind of worked, I guess, even if he did end up kind of passing Azur.
And that's a dangerous World Edit to want to see too.
Yes.
Getting that aggressive and now impacting. He was pretty hit or miss on the T side. There was a couple moments too where he absolutely should have found 1 or 2 frags and weren't seeing anything. So I was a bit curious about as far as his impact was going to be concerned here on the CT side, but already seems way more comfortable now that they've extended the lead and they've won the first gun round here too. Just shutting down these players, and this combined with the already great efficiency of Blade and Shara being able to win those 1v1s out in the open, and Waylander to a certain degree too. He's carrying off the T side. This is making for a very, very dangerous team to try and shut down, especially when you've lost the pistol and you're now 7 rounds behind.
Yeah, this is getting difficult now. This is the problem. They had that one big round, I guess, to play off after the fact they didn't actually pick up the pistol, and well, here you go. That's a massive shutdown from Blade. And this is deadly. This is the point now that when Blade plays well, it becomes incredibly hard for any team to break in towards that. That was the big thing, I think, against SK. When SK do those kind of defaults, they play ahead of the smokes, that kind of Danish style that we saw coming through with like your Dignitas and such. Okay, that was cool. That was Blade being big, but then you kind of couple that with World Edit, you've got mid on wraps as well. It suddenly becomes an incredibly tough task to break into. So actually for FlipSid, these two performing is a very, very enjoyable factor for them. A quick flash towards A, not going to catch out anyone as this 3 play towards mid from the T side is going to have to do some damage here, but already a bit of a switch up coming out from the CTs.
Full losing bonus coming in now for the Renegades as well, but so far only being able to find a single plant in the 5 rounds that have been played out by this point, which is now going to be an even bigger issue in that obviously if FlipSid wins this round, I mean, what sort of force are we going to be looking at for Renegades on the final round? They may run themselves dry, and not just this too, but they have such a long run to make now that they haven't picked up a single round in these first couple, that can they even possibly make this big of a comeback now? It's going to be a mental block as well as an actual physical block of just stacking up that many rounds without dropping 2 in a row.
For a team like Renegades, who've not had the easiest of runs recently, you can imagine that mental, I guess, capacity to go for those resets to mentally come back into the game is probably in a deficit, to say the least. But 1 minute left on the board here. Let's see if they can find something, or will FlipSid get themselves to 15 rounds, which is ever so important considering these are best of 1 still. Using that Swiss format, though, it's not quite as, I guess, randomized or lucky, I guess, at times you could argue. But let's see what comes into this round already. It looks like Renegades posturing towards the A hit. 3 players still by ramp. We've got the CT smokes coming through. A couple of flashes to follow. Yam and Azak going to try and work through connector as well. It's going to be World Edit and Waylander actually towards A this time. Blade playing elsewhere, but it's Markov doing the damage through connector. Catches out too, and a breakback comes at least in towards a touch for Renegades. JKS and Justillo locking down A completely. They take damage, but they've got the bomb plant.
2 big players getting knocked out of there too. Down to Shar and Markaloff, but Shar, he's aggressively out in the open. Didn't spot the second player by Firebox just as of yet, so JKS still has an edge here. I think Shar assumes that that corner of the map is going to be clear. As they've gone for the plant, though, JKS is still holding back very passively. Same thing for Justillo. Neither of these guys peeking out as of yet. They're going to let FlipSid come to them. And it's up to FlipSid to move in very quickly. Both of them have kits. No rush in that department. But Char's going to start to leap in, and it walks right into the crosshair of Justillo. Now the decision for Markaloff. Do I even feel like going for this, or should I just fall back and save? He's going to hope he can catch JKS peeking out to actually retreat from the site. But ultimately, he's not going to be actually going for this retake. He's going to be letting the guys from the Renegades escape. And they will be able to combo at least 1 more together here.
And he does hopefully save the orb. Yes, he does. He gets away with the orb, so that's, I guess, worthwhile at this point. Markalov's money, I'm pretty sure, is incredibly stable. Yes, it is. But again, worth keeping the money incredibly high for that CT side. Keep them back in the money. Keep them constantly pressuring Renegades, who are on such a tipping point here. So again, double orb comes out. We've got Markalov on the orb. Okay, I know Anders will be happy. I know anyone out there who's going, it could happen, guys. It never happens. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I'm going to watch and pray. It never happens. Never.
Again.
Sweet, sweet Markalov.
Alright, guys. Well, Markaloff getting a little bit of help getting himself up to the apartments quickly enough there. Won't be catching anyone out just yet. Yeah, he is peeking that to a slight degree, but it's going to be Markaloff that just walks right up in the apartments and takes down Yam. And not only this, but World Edit finding a second and a third now for the team in total. Second for him personally, but look at Azar sneaking up. World Edit says no to that, shuts down Azar. And now it's just on JKS.
Anything you can do, I can do better. World Edit gets 3. Markalov looking for his second here, but just backs away at maybe the right time at this point. Going to readjust a little bit, gets a little caught by the flash, but JKS out on the site now, and Markalov waits patiently, spots him out, takes him down, and the Orps do all the damage. 3 for World Edit, 2 for Markalov. And I guess that's the point in saving an AWP. You can just throw him around as you like.
That's incredibly impressive with World Edit too,
That
holding
was
that
sexy.
much pressure that quickly, and with the smoke in the way to combine all that. Still, obscured vision, picks up 2 kills in a row, and then gets the third one that's at like point-blank range. So nicely done. You can even see it too. They're happy about that one. What we can only assume is the tactical pause from Renegades is coming in here, but ultimately this is going to be a little bit late. Not only because of the fact that it's 7-15 and FlipSid only need 1 more to win, but they just reset themselves by winning that last round. Now they don't really have all that much money.
Yeah, money is in tatters. They can...
I mean, they're going to have to force, obviously.
Yeah, they can get a couple of bits and pieces. I'm looking at what they can probably afford. I guess it's a good few Tech 9s with a bit of armor. They do have a little else to go off here. So there's enough to build something from. But considering even how the gun rounds have been going, this is going to be quite difficult. But again, it's, how do you want to face into a double AWP? I remember Threat kind of discussing this when a double AWP's in play on the CT side. How do you want to play into it? Generally, it's just doing sight hits. Generally, it's trying to negate one's dominance somewhere on the map. You go, okay, well, bring them back in towards A, for example. Let's do a default A, right? Let's do those default smokes and take it. And actually, Tech 9s aren't exactly going to do too badly at that. If you can, I guess, cut the site a little closer, play it off the back of it, you can actually make something happen. So we'll have to wait and see what Renegades have kind of boiled up during that little bit of a timeout. We are back underway any second now. FlipSid do have the double AWPs. They have everything they need in this round, and they've got rounds to play with. But Game is live. Let's make sure we do not miss the final round here because it is very important. And let's see what Renegades have in store.
Moving up very quickly, the members of Renegades get ready for just an all and execute into the A-bomb site. That's immediately going to put pressure on Waylander, but nobody's looked his eyes over. He's already done huge damage. 2 kills, tries to transfer into a third, but Usteel is going to shut him down. He picks up a second, but Blade also found another kill for his team, taking down JKS. All in the hands of Usteel and Yem now to keep this game together for the Renegades. They do get site control, but it's dodgy at best. Smokes are holding off very heavy trigger points for the members of FlipSid to find their way back in.
And look at all the utility with FlipSid. They've got so much to work with. Mollies to cut off corners to clear out spots. There's the first. Going to clear that out. No one's there this time. Ustilo, though, going to be smoked out here. Going to try and take the peek in front of the smoke. That's dangerous as hell. Markov might have spotted that out. The clock is ticking, and Yam is watching the cross. There we go. Takes down 1. Shara gone, left with 2. Both of them do have the AWP, and it's going to be Yam doing some heavy lifting here. Markov takes the fight, gets denied. Yam comes up with the goods when required. Saves the AWP as well.
Ustilo opens that back up for the Renegades, and Yem keeps it together at the end. Finds the 3 crucial kills to end it. Whereas Ustilo, if he didn't find those 2 frags there, specifically taking down Waylander in the site at the beginning, then that would have been a GG from the get-go. We would have been seeing 16-7. But again, the Renegades do keep themselves together in this matchup for a little bit longer. Still a very long path and a very big ladder to climb, but now they've still been able to keep themselves on it for the time being, but they haven't broken the CT economy as yet. We still have a full buy coming in from them. Ustilo, though, holding strong. After getting some hot pressure in his direction, he is able to take down World at it and find an early advantage for the Renegades.
This looks like an all in B as well. That's going back to kind of almost basic. Oh my god, Shara, no way. No one's checked for this. Shara's been completely let loose here. Flash comes out perfectly. He spots down 1. He spots out the plant. Shara doing incredible work. And he's still doing so well.
Finally going to get taken down by Azir, and it's still in the control of the Renegades after all that chaos. A bit disappointing at the end of the day that Shara makes that big of an impact, and his teammates can't piece it together as of yet, but they are moving their way back into the site, and Renegades are a little bit shattered now, too, because of that flank that just happened there. Markelov finding 1 pickup. Should have spotted the shadow of Yam, but Yam is going to find the peak there and take him down on the hands of Waylander. Tries to find the recovery kill over onto Yam to be able to take him down, but just holding his position, waiting for the peak from Ustilo. He's only got 29 HP, so he's got to be very careful that he himself plays this now, but Waylander goes for the peak, and again, it's Yam that shuts things down at the end.
And what? Why? No. No. You started to believe in Shara's work, huh? No. But yeah, that was kind of ridiculous that Shara was able to pull that off. That shouldn't have happened. But it did. He got some good work done, but in the end, it didn't matter. Tried so hard, got so far, etc, etc. 15-9, we are still in the game. The game is still alive. We can turn that music off for a little while at least, as Markov has got the shotgun out, but not much else.
So again from the Renegades, quick wind-up into the A-bomb site. But take
Why
a
you
look
gotta
at this.
be that guy, Waylander?
Let's see if he can actually get it. You can see JKS crawling around the corner. They're expecting someone to be there, and he gets it anyway. Tries to find the second kill. Markelov did find 1 pickup with the shotgun. Markelov's got 2 with the shotgun. World then finds a 3rd for the team, and then Shara closes it out. And that's going to be the end of it, of all the rounds to close it out on. They do it on that one. 16-9 is going to be our first map here at the ESL 1 Cologne qualifiers. And FlipSid will take it 2 maps away from a spot at the main event. For the members of the Renegades, they are now 2 losses away from being knocked out.
That round. That round, man. That's not okay. That's one way to close out after such a heroic performance towards the end of that. You know, you started to see things coming together. You saw Yam having a really nice step up in performance. Ustilo as well hitting some incredibly, you know, very important shots there, but I guess shotguns and Zeus's are the way forward.
Seems to be, as it works out great for FlipSid in the end there. And unfortunately, I think the big issue at the end of the day is tactically speaking, we just don't really see anything that impressive from the Renegades. What actually racks them up a few rounds towards the end is the fact that they just brute force their way into the sites and rely on that raw fragging power. And it's still very trade heavy, so it's brought down to these like 2-on-3 situations and whatnot. And in quite a few close situations, thankfully the Renegades were able to win it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the big lead that FlipSid get at the beginning still allows them to take the actual map.
So I do believe we are almost ready to go down towards the stage to hear from Mitch again, and let's see what who he's got standing by with him.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here, of course, with Markelov as earlier. Solid performance from you guys, especially your T side looked quite strong. The last round of that first half, though, raised a couple questions. World Edit moved into the B site, took it on his own, essentially, but the bomb was still in Palace, and I think we saw Blade sort of rotate back and forth, it finally went to A solo, and then got taken down. Was there a bit of confusion or miscommunication for you guys, or did things just go wrong in general?
The start of the round started from the improvisation where they got a kill and just go through on the side. Then I will try to support him, but 3 of our guys were near the A side, like on default situation. And they will try to rotate, but we'll try to open A. Don't know why, because B clearly was clear. And we started to die one by one, and that's why Blade went one direction and another one. So.
Fair enough, it happens. I mean, to be fair, while there was some rockier moments there, you guys finished it off in style towards the end. We saw Waylander finishing off with a Zeus kill as well, just for a bit of a laugh. But on that topic, everyone is really interested to see how Waylander sort of meshes into your team. Obviously, we saw him playing a lot of Palace on that T side, which is actually what we saw from him in Gambit as well. It's a very similar role. For him coming into your team, have you said, look, do what you're comfortable with and you've worked around him, or have you sort of said, we need you to do this, can you do this for us?
The second one. Yeah, we tell him exactly what he need to do, and some position on some maps was like his first experience. So it's really hard for him to make himself comfortable, but he's trying his best. That's all.
I think he's looking pretty good at the moment. I think everyone agrees. Thank you very much for chatting to me, Markelov. Good luck with the rest of your games. And that will be FlipSid Tactics, who go 1-0 here as well. So obviously tomorrow we'll see them again for another best of one where they play another 1-0 team. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's pass it over to our expert desk and they can start to break this one down a little bit more. Alex?
Thanks very much, Mitch. It's good to hear from Markelov especially. I really like what he has to say there, just saying that no, Waylander, yes, you may be a top-heavy player who can carry a team, but that's not what you're doing here. You are going to be our Bondik. You are going to do what Bondik was doing, it seems.
Well, he was doing just that, though, for FlipSid.
I mean, basically sitting in Palace, he was like dusting off the cushions, making sure it still looked nice, and just hanging out in that one area.
If you want to make this a long-term solution where Waylander's going to play with these guys, I think they should play around him because he is such a massive talent. I wouldn't want to bottle someone with the skill ceiling that he has into a certain role that he might not be uncomfortable or might be uncomfortable with.
I guess it works on Mirage because, as Mitch mentioned, that was his previous role in Gambit as well on that map. So kind of hanging out in Palace, that's probably one of the maps where he does feel comfortable on.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you have, well, first off, Blade playing as well as you did, but also World Edit, who has been their best player over a good stretch of time now. When they play well as well, you don't have to really do all that much. You can take your time and straighten out the cushions in apartments.
Absolutely, you can. Coming to the Australians then, they started on the defensive side of things, and actually a lot of observations from you guys was regarding just how aggressive they were playing it. Can we highlight where those successes came from? Because they actually managed to accumulate quite a few rounds early on.
Oh yeah, I think that's the key word early on. They were able to catch FlipSid a bit off guard when FlipSid were running their defaults because FlipSid were going into it, I guess, a tiny bit faster than, probably not expecting that kind of an aggression coming out from Renegades. But eventually you would see that Blade, and the rest of the guys actually figured out what to do and started playing way more passive, which Renegades weren't really able to adapt to. Their mid aggressiveness didn't really pan out anymore. And when they started to push forward towards Underpass, they found, an opening on Markelov once, but that was largely due to Markelov having, really unfortunate timing more than anything else. So Renegades, after a while, just kind of felt a bit lost as to what they wanted to do on their CT sides because they couldn't hold off executions from FlipSid.
I think it goes back to what we were discussing previously before the game. Individuals. I mean, there were situations where it all played out in the favor of Renegades. They had the aggression in connector, B short, and window. They had the triangle going on there, and FlipSid was pushing in, but they were just not able to win their duels. And they always were down in numbers, and they were the ones that sort of had to gamble afterwards. So, for the most part, FlipSid having a bit of a breeze. In my opinion, they should have even picked up more rounds. They started off kind of a weird run that they won the pistol round, they won the second and third round. The first weapon round was just odd. They smoked off a site and decided to run all over the map afterwards, one by one. And that's where kind of Renegades had their spur moment in this whole matchup. So, yeah, definitely not something, not promising for the Australians.
Yeah, and I think even though Yem ended up topping the scoreboard for Astralis, what am I saying? Renegades, in terms of just getting frags, I actually thought he was.
So he did that.
Yeah, learning from Scoots. But no, honestly, I think Yam had a pretty poor showing. I think we saw for the better part of the CT half, he missed a lot of very, very easy op shots that an operator at that level should be able to hit. So that definitely needs to get into order. I also think JKS was pretty anonymous for the better part of that game, and that's something you can't have at this kind of a stage of a tournament.
I mean, you guys called it. You said their individuals would have to show up if Renegades were to pick up the win versus FlipSid. Was not to be, and our first game is done and dusted. We're going to be seeing more from them tomorrow, but for now, they're going to be sitting on that W. FlipSid, one step closer to the major. A reminder, of course, 3 wins, and you are over in Cologne next month. And now Renegades are going to have to battle up against it. For now, though, we are going to be taking a quick break, but up next is Splice versus Hellraisers. We get to see what Splice, who are a surprise to all of us present in the Columbus Major, and now they've got an opportunity to get to another major. It truly would be mind-boggling, and it's going to be versus Hellraisers. Before we go, though, you guys know the score by now. It's also an application that you can get on your smartphone. You know it. You know the drill by now. Available on iOS, App Store, and Google Play, and it enables you to not only keep up to date with a game that's just gone down, get your stats, and you can see just how much JKS was underperforming. So you go check that out, and we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, though, Splice Hellraisers is kicking off with our second game of this offline qualifier.